on what I'm reading from Mary Kay Cabot of Cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer. She says, and this is about an hour ago, the Browns will explore trading down from number 6 in the 2026 NFL Draft. And so her writing says, just like last year, the Browns will explore opportunities in hopes of finding a blockbuster deal like last year. Now, when Mary Kay says something, to me it goes, the Browns are having serious discussions about it. I remember back maybe closer to the three-quarter mark of the season where she talked about the Browns' discussions of opening the 21-day window for Deshaun Watson. And I think to that as the organization soft launching a plan. And now the Watson news, it will be but forever until the Browns are considering cutting Deshaun Watson. Anything else will be met with vitriol, as it should be. This is not something I would meet with vitriol, or I wouldn't meet this with anger. But as a Browns fan, I would just say, let's stick with 6 and see if you can get Caleb or Carnell. I understand they love draft capital, but maybe for this year, for intents and purposes of this 2026 NFL Draft, maybe don't do that. But I understand having the conversations because you don't leave any stone unturned with this.
So I think this is very interesting. And Reese, you knew I was someone who said last year I wanted the Browns to trade out of 2 and go back a couple picks and get a guy like a Mason Graham, who I thought was a very safe pick. And you weren't taking Mason Graham at 2. But you trade back, you get an extra first, you take him at 5. I loved that move, and I know a lot of Browns fans didn't. And they thought you should have took Travis Hunter, that he was going to be a game breaker on either side of the ball. I just didn't trust that. I thought there's some bust in Travis Hunter's game, and I thought there was no bust in Mason Graham's game.
Yeah.
If Carnell Tate is gone, and Caleb Down, and if Caleb Downs falls to 6, I don't think the Browns are taking him. I really don't. And I'm not saying that if he's the best player in the draft, you take him. But on your board, if you have the offensive lineman or the next wide receiver, not that far different from someone else. And I've heard some people talk about that with these offensive linemen. Like the difference between Malioa and Fanu is not that much from Lomu and Caden Proctor and Froling from Georgia.
So that the aforementioned Georgia offensive tackle you mentioned, they have, or at least Mel Kiper does, having with that Jacksonville pick, the 24th overall, going to Cleveland.
So if you don't think the difference between those linemen is much, or the next group of receiver, and I don't know where the Browns have Mekhi Lemon, Jordan Tyson, Carnell Tate. I don't know where they have all those guys ranked. But if you don't think the difference is that much, yeah, I don't have a problem with them moving back a little bit. Now, if Carnell Tate's there at 6, I think you sprint to the podium and you draft him.
I mean, it's almost, for me, like a Post-it note. Carnell Tate no matter what. And then you have, an asterisk with, well, if Caleb Downs is there, maybe have the conversation. But I don't expect both of them to be there at 6.
So I understand the Browns having the discussions, right, yes, of doing this just in case. And we don't know who they have, like the offensive lineman. I've heard multiple things on offensive linemen. I've heard Cleveland really liked Caden Proctor.
Yeah.
Who knows if that's true or not? I don't think you're taking Caden Proctor at 6. Maybe you take him at 24 if he's not there. Or maybe you can go back in the draft to 14 or 15 and pick up some extra capital. And then you can get Proctor there. And then maybe you take a Denzel Boston because you think he's a really good wide receiver and you think he's close to a Mekhi Lemon or a Jordan Tyson or a Carnell Tate. And you get them at a 24. Then that's a win. It's all going to depend on how those first 5 picks go, I think, for this.
Yeah, with that 24th overall selection, and this is the first time I've seen Freeling, the tackle out of Georgia, mocked to Cleveland. But at that position, the 24th overall selection, I think, is where Cleveland should look to pick up the best offensive tackle available. They've got all of their linemen eligible for free agency, or at least eligible to not be on the Cleveland Browns this next upcoming season. So in the first round, I do think that needs to be addressed. I just like playmaker addressed with that 6th overall pick. You had some comments from Ravens general manager Eric DeCosta. So Tyler Linderbaum, who is eligible to be a free agent, This from Scott Petrak of the Elyria Chronicle Telegram. Ravens center Tyler Linderbaum seems like a good free agent fit for the Browns, but Ravens GM Eric DeCosta said at the Combine he's made a market-setting proposal and hopes to get a contract done before Linderbaum becomes a free agent. He also talked about Lamar Jackson, Ravens quarterback, and hoping to get an extension done with him. And now all of this conversation is just that, throwing things at the wall and see what sticks, or see who maybe the interest gets perked if someone willing to make a trade offer, or something in the silly season that we're in with the NFL Combine. But Mel Kiper has, in his mock, several Buckeyes going in the top 10, and we had top man Isaiah look it up. In 2010, Oklahoma had 3 players taken in the top 10 of the draft. That's the most for any single school all time. Mel Kiper's newest one this morning has Caleb going number 2 to the New York Jets, Caleb Downs. At 4, Orville Reese goes to the Tennessee Titans. At 6, Carnell Tate goes to the Cleveland Browns. At 7, Sonny Styles gets picked up by the Washington Commanders. Now, for what it's worth, the Bengals are picking up Ruben Bain, the defensive end out of Miami, which I think would be an absolute home run for them there. It's something that they haven't been able to make work, Cincinnati and a defender with the top pick, but it doesn't mean if that's that's the position of most need, and I think it is for Cincinnati because they're losing Trey Hendrickson, and Shamar Stewart was interesting with the conversation around Shamar, right? Where you had college guys saying, well, we didn't hear much of him at Texas A&M, but he was an absolute physical specimen. So Cincinnati picked him when they did. And the first season, probably not the way you'd want to pick at that kind of level to go for you when you need that production.
Yeah, and the Bengals, if you get a Ruben Bain at 10, I think you're
be pretty happy
as could be. If somehow, I don't think this happens, somehow like Caleb Downs falls to 10, you're running to the podium, I would feel, if you're the Cincinnati Bengals. If you're the Bengals at 10, best defensive player available because you need help all over the field on the defensive side of the ball.
I'm also looking in Mel Kiper's most recent mock at 25. He's got Ohio State's Caden McDonald going to the Chicago Bears. 27, so the tackle that I like, Caden Proctor from Alabama, he's going 27th to the San Francisco 49ers. This was from WFAA in Dallas. Jackson Smith and Jigba had an interview with one of his hometown outlets, and the NFL's Offensive Player of the Year says he should be the league's highest paid wide receiver. Quote, I'm really not too pressed about it right now to get it done. I know my time is coming, and when we get it done, it's going to be a great deal. God's timing is perfect timing, so whenever that may come, we'll be ready for it. I believe I deserve to be the highest paid in my position. Just what I give to the game and the community, I give it my all, and I think that's worth a lot more. ESPN says the Seahawks plan to work out new deals this offseason for JSN and for Devin Witherspoon, their Pro Bowl cornerback. Seattle can exercise a fifth-year option for both of those guys on May 1st. And Smith and Jigba set a franchise record and led the NFL with 1,700 receiving yards. Jamar Chase is the highest paid receiver in terms of annual average at $40.25 million. JSN getting more than that?
I mean, you would think he would because he's next up. Now, should he? I don't know. Jackson Smith and Jigba had a great year. He is proving to be one of the best receivers in the league. His route running is elite. Am I ready to say he's better than Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson? I don't know if I'm ready to say that he's better than them, but he's in the conversation with them. So those guys have signed extensions already. It just makes sense that he's next up and he'll get a little bit more. I was super impressed with JSN this year, and we saw him here at Ohio State and saw how good he was. And I talk all the time about how I thought it was crazy at that Rose Bowl that Wilson and Olave both said that JSN was better than they were. They might have been right because JSN had himself a year this year. And I think he will end up being the top paid wide receiver. Now, that'll only be for a minute because Amon-Ra St. Brown or someone else will come behind and get a big deal, or Chase will want a new deal, or Jefferson. But he would be deserving.
And one of the reasons, too, is because of the versatility. He plays in the slot and on the outside. With Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, more outside vertical threats. But one of the reasons that this is so great for JSN is because he played at Ohio State. What did we see him do here? Really worked in the slot because he had Olave and Garrett Wilson on the outsides. Now he goes to the next level, and is immediately valuable to the Seahawks just because he's able to run the entire route tree from the outside and inside. And so that's been his argument this whole season. I'm the most versatile receiver. I have the most yards, and I've been essentially the best receiver of the entire season. Pay me my bag.
Yeah, I think versatility equals tremendous value there. So Jamar Chase, highest average annual at 40.25. Justin Jefferson, second, $35 million. That feels like a very interesting chasm for both of those wide receivers out of LSU. We'll do three things on a Tuesday. Coming up next, Bishop and Friends on the Fan. Amazon.